Hi everyone, today is October 5th, 2019, and this is the Duel Assessment, your podcast for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. My name is Green Ranger, and this week is a bit of a continuation of last week's episode. We're going to go over pretty much that box, Dark Dimension, and talk about some of the archetypes that people have been playing, and any of the other exciting R's and N's I've been seeing. We're going to Esports. Some of these decks have been put into play. We have some of the old decks as well. But there's one big standout, and those are the Invocation cards, which have been made into a package, so we'll discuss that. The Unknown Duelist event, Transcend Game, whatever you want to call it. Talk about those new cards. It doesn't really make much sense to talk about these cards, but I will, because it hasn't come together, and we don't have the character yet, so it doesn't really make much sense. But we'll talk about the new cards. Podcast question of the week. A lot of comments this week about what archetypes and cards everyone has been playing from that box. Doug Dimmitt Duel has a Turbo Quintet Magician deck. All the Magicians to get out that really big monster. So he'll have that in the middle of the card review. We also have some new cards from Ranked Duels and Duel Quest as well. Let's get to it. This week in the Duel World for myself, I've been buying the new box, but I think I started with not that many gems, so I haven't put a huge investment into it yet, but I will get around to playing some of these cards. I really want, the Invoke cards, for example, some of the Gravekeepers, and as a result, I'm playing Ranked, but I haven't been able to play a new deck, so I'm still running that Fortune Lady deck I got King of Games with last month, and I got to Legend 1, so it's just October 5th, and I got to Legend 1 already, so it's pretty good progress for me. Of course, the inability to D-rank has definitely helped in the speed. And the deck is playing pretty fine right now. I still mess up a lot of things with the math, with levels and such, but sometimes miracles work out. I was able to obtain Scud this week, and previously I was auto-dueling with a, Turbo Quadrant Gandrix decks with the Nordics, but I switched over to this Amazoness deck, and then I auto-dueled, and then I got Scud. And there are a lot of complaints about Scud being a character, and I kind of agree, because he is a character that, not only are the cards not that good, his skills aren't that good, he's just so lowly, and it's clearly a trivial villain that he has no character development at all. He looks ugly. I don't know. There's a lot of things that that don't appeal to the character. Obviously, any legendary duelist is a good thing. And it's not really a complaint, but pretty much the worst character to get. I think Weevil's gonna get his event this month, and he looks a lot better than Scud. So, anyways. I got him to level 21 or something, and Kaiba's almost at 30. Mokuba's done already, so I'm going to get to 30 on these characters soon. And in terms of the Unknown Duelist, I have all the cards except for 2 Cubic Mandala, and it's been a bit of a frustration farming for that one card, but hopefully I'll get it soon. Alright, that's enough about me, and let's talk about Esports this week. I'm only going to talk about a few tournaments. Duel Links Meta Weekly number 92. This happened with the new meta happening. And what really is going on is Dark Lords are still in first place in terms of representation or whatever, but what happened was Neos decks are coming back, and they're not exactly Neos decks, they're Invocation Neo decks typically. So they're very packaged decks with several different packages, and they call them Neos, but they're typically because Invocation is involved. And what happened is this took a big chunk out of Desperado. Desperado was pretty much the 1B to the 1A of Dark Lord, so Neos has taken over that. And then you have a smattering of all the other decks. Fortune Lady, 6 Sam, Spellbooks, Blue Eyes, Gravekeepers, Stromberg, and Thunder Dragons. Spellbooks are making a comeback though, so look out for them. First place, Luke Tyler beat down Invocation Neos. So what this is pretty much the main mold you see with this new Neos Invocation deck. And what you have is 2 Alistair the Invoked and 1 Invocation as that package. And because they recycle each other so well, you don't need 3 Invocations, and that's really good in terms of a budget perspective. You still need 2 Alistairs, so you might have to buy the box twice. And the cards they fuse into Invoked Coxodus and Invoked Caliga, you need a water and a dark attribute, and that works with the deck too. You have 3 flip-flop frogs. This is just an R from Cybernetic Rebellion. It's a bit of an old box, but it bounces cards, and it's a water attribute. So it helps clear the way for your attacks, and it's a water attribute. This is the big one here. 3 Keeper of Dragon Magic. This is a card that is a dark, and it's a 1-of in the Master Chaos structure deck. So you might have to buy that structure deck EX 3 times, and that's what makes this deck a bit more expensive to play. But what this card does is it basically tutors out Neos Fusion. So you play this card, and then you can get Neos Fusion, and that lets you summon cards, use materials from the deck. So you're going to have a lot of monsters on the board, and you probably... This Keeper of Dragon Magic also tutors out Invocation. They're both fusion cards, so you could have your invoked monster and your Neos, probably in addition to your normal summon. You probably normal summon the Keeper of Dragon Magic, actually, in attack mode. And then you have your Neos package, Elemental Hero Neos, Neos Fusion, Brave Neos, and then they throw in good back row. So that's what's really different about these cards. They have good back row. 1 Cosmic Cyclone, 1 Econ, 2 World Legacy Clash, 1 Treacherous Trap Hole. Oh yeah, and Bacon Saver's part of the Neos package, so that's what the deck looks like there. Second place, MasterCards Y Beatdown Dark Lords. Dark Lords are still around, but they're not very different. Monsters, you've got 1 Desire, 3 Ixchel, 1 Superbia, 1 Morningstar, 2 Nastin, 1 Textlopakia, and 1 Ukobak. And not much to say about this. In the sideboard, they do have Lava Golem and 1 Mispolymerization. You're going to see some decks run random cards to counter fusions because Invoked are the main threat nowadays. Third place, Bendy, Tendi, Beatdown, Invocation, Neos. Pretty much the same deck as before with those packages. This one does run 3 Alistairs, done 1 Invocation, Keeper of Dragon Magic, Bacon Saver, Flip Flop Frog, Neos Fusion, and then the back row they've got 2 World Legacy Clash and 3 Wolf D. Wolf D might be a good card to put in decks now. And third place, -1, Beatdown Dark Lords. Fourth deck in a row with Beatdown. Not very different again. This one does have World Legacy Clash, and that's a card that's pretty strong nowadays. It's always been strong, it's never been a bad card. Okay. So that is Meta Weekly. Let's look at Liga Elite Latina 4. First place, Jimmy. 6 Sams. Beat down 6 Sams. So one of the cleaner lists you'll see, 6 Sams have been around, and they've changed because of nerfs and whatnot, but this is a very clean list. 3 Kizin, 1 Kizaru. No, this is Inishi. I should know the cards by now. 1 Inishi, 1 Kizaru, 3 Fuma, 1 Legendary Secret, 3 6 Sam United, 2 World Legacy Clash, 1 Dojo, 3 Dual Wield, and 2 Return of the 6 Samurai. And in the sideboard again, they have non-fusion area, which neither player can fusion summon, so that's a bit of a... I don't know if that's a good idea, because Rihan is a fusion summon, I think. Yeah, so you can't play your own Rihan. I don't know about that. Second place, Osama. Destiny Draw Magnet Warriors. We've seen Magnet Warriors run 30 cards. This one's only 22. And they cut out a lot of those trap cards like Release from Stone or Magnet Conversion. This is a very clean list. Yeah, a lot of Resurrection. There's Powerful Rebirth. Things like that. There's a Lava Golem in here too. Third place, Pinkman, D, and Thox. Beatdown, Invoked, Neos. Same thing as we've seen before of those packages. Your Invocation package, your Keeper of Dragon Magic, your Flip Flop Frog, Neos, all these things. And third place, Mordecai, Light and Dark, Invoked, Spellbooks. So, you see this package being put into Spellbooks, and it makes a lot of sense again. The Blue Boy is a water attribute, and that lets you get your Coxodus out, which is your best invoked monster. And, who's the Dark? Well, Alistair's a dark, but then you also have Breaker, the magical warrior. Spellbooks can run a few cards like a Kaiku and also magical something. They're all dark monsters to help you get your Kaliga out. So that is spellbooks. And spellbooks are definitely taking a turn for the better with light and dark, helping you draw Alistair or Silent Magician out whenever you want. Results from the esports have culminated in the Duel Links meta tier list update. This was the first update since the Kaiba Cup, so some of them don't make much sense, but you can get a grasp of what is meta nowadays. Tier 1, they have Dark Lords and Desperado. Personally, I've seen fewer Desperado decks show up, and I expect this deck to fall a bit. Dark Lords are still Tier 1. They're showing up all the time in the tournament standings, but I expect Desperados to fall. And it's kind of like Desperado shared the Neos package with Invoked, and Invoked is kind of taking that over. Tier 2, we have Six Sams and Spellbooks. Spellbooks definitely got a lot of weapons being synergistic with Invoked. You know, having the water and the dark attributes helps a lot. And of course, they have benefits of light and dark. Six Sams is pretty strong. You know, they always have the ability to negate a spell or trap, and that comes pretty good right now with Invocation being a very good spell card. Tier 3, we have Triamids and Fortune Lady. Fortune Lady has dropped down. Personally, I think the deck's fine in ranked duels. We are seeing some Fortune Lady decks get 3rd or 4th in tournaments, but nothing past that so far. High potential, we have some new decks here. Gravekeepers, Invoked, and Neos. Invoked decks are definitely going to shoot up. Maybe tier 2 status, unless someone finds a way to... Unless, like, people start subbing in all those anti-fusion cards. Gravekeepers, I don't know. They're pretty strong, but we have yet to see an optimized list. I think that's the issue right now. And removed, Mono Stun, Subterror, and Vendred. Mono Stun was a deck that I never think should have been put in this tier list at all. It never really made much sense. You never really saw it a ton. It probably placed second in a tournament once, and then they ran with it, but I don't really see it going anywhere. Subterrors, I'm glad to see the deck out of the tier list, but you do see it sometimes in tournaments. I mean, in ranked duels sometimes. And Vendreds, of course. They're a deck that people, you know, invested in that box to get, and they're going to play it and ride it out. Alright, so let's talk about the Unknown Duelist event. This was an interesting event. Of course, all of the lore of this event comes from the movie. I think the manga had something about this too. But what it is this avatar, Unknown Duelist, isn't actually real. It's just an avatar. And the girl plays it. I don't know her name, the little girl. I'm not sure if you're going to get her as a character for DSOD World, but it's very likely you get this Unknown Duelist avatar. And I do like the way that they frame it. It's kind of like you're playing Hardcore Diablo, because in Hardcore Diablo, when you lose your character, when your character dies, you lose the character, you lose all the stuff that's in it. And it's kind of the same thing where this character loses. She's like, oh, I really liked the design of the avatar. It's kind of like she's playing Hardcore Diablo in Duel Links, but these cards don't make much sense right now because they all have synergy with each other. I mean, there's 2 cards that are cubic cards, and the rest are Constellar cards, and we don't have the full pieces yet. Probably when you unlock this character or you farm her, you'll get all the cards that you need, but right now they don't make too much sense. And the special stipulation for these duels is that tribute summons don't need tributes, so that's what's special about here. And that kind of ties in with the DSOD theme, where you can pay life points to summon bigger monsters. We don't have to pay life points here. And you get free duels where the farming's a lot easier because you could just play Blue Eyes. And Blue Eyes is stronger than all of her monsters, so that's how you farm the Unknown Duelist. But anyways, let's go through her cards. Duza, the Meteor Cubic Vessel. It says you are level 4 machine, light machine, 1600. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can send 1 cubic card from your deck to the graveyard. Once per turn during either player's turn. If a monster was sent to your graveyard this turn while this card is face up, you can make this card gain 200 attack for each monster of a different name in your graveyard until the end of this turn. Right now, this is the only cubic monster we have, and then the only other cubic card we have is the cubic mandala. So, right now, this card's dead in the water. I don't know. It depends how many other cubic cards we get. Right now, it doesn't make much sense, but that's what this card is. Ghost Ship is a repeat cubic mandala trap card, continuous trap. If you control a cubic monster, activate this card by targeting any number of monsters that are in your opponent's graveyard because they were destroyed and sent there this turn. Special summon them to your opponent's field, but each becomes attack 0 and has 1 cubic counter placed on it. Monsters with cubic counters can't attack, also negate their effects. While your opponent controls any of the monsters summoned by this effect, negate any monster effects your opponent activates. When the last of these monsters leaves the field, destroy this card. So what happens here is you have to destroy your opponent's monsters, activate this trap card during that turn, and then you basically clog their board up, I think, and they come back with 0 attack, and then they can't activate their effects. And then they stop other monsters from having their effects too. Very situational card. It doesn't make much sense right now, obviously, because we don't have the other cubic cards. But something like Treacherous Trap Hole is what makes this work. You could activate TTH and then play this card, and then you get 2 monsters back with 0 attack. And then that clogs up their board. And then the goal is to get a 1-turn kill. It's kind of like you're attacking directly, but you're hitting into monsters with 0 attack. Yeah, this doesn't make much sense right now, but we'll see about cards in the future. Here's an SR Constellar Algetti, level 4 spellcaster, 1600-1400. When this card is normal summoned, you can special summon 1 level 4 Constellar monster from your hand. So this is the only other level 4 Constellar we have right now, and what screams, these cards scream to me is XZ summoning. So you get 2 level 4s that, and then you could do your rank 4. XZs have been put on hold because of Dark's DSOD World, so we don't know the full potential of this card just yet. But they're worth collecting whenever XZs happens. Constellar Virgo, same thing. Level 5 Fairy, 2300-1600. When it's normal summoned, you can special summon 1 level 5 Constellar monster from your hand in face-up defense. Same thing, except this requires a tribute summon, so whenever level 5 XZs happens, that's what it is. Same thing here, Constellar Aldebaran. Level 3, 1300-800. When this is normal summon, special summon 1 level 3 Constellar monster from your hand. Okay? And then 1 spell card here, Constellar Star Cradle. Target 2 Constellar monsters in your graveyard, add those targets to your hand. You can't conduct your battle phase the turn you activate this card. So, yeah, this is to recycle those monsters, and then you could just play them because they special summon each other from the hand. So, it goes along well. You do lose your battle phase, but hopefully whatever you're trying to summon has an effect that goes off. So those are the cards from the Unknown Duelist. Maybe we get to unlock her next time. I don't know what they do with the other character that controls her, but hopefully we get more cards to make some clarity of what we do with these cubic and constellar cards. Because right now they don't do anything. Let's get to the podcast question of the week. And now we're going to talk about the new box, kind of the continuing discussion in the new box, now that we got some cards to play with it. What new archetypes and cards are you enjoying and playing in Duel Links? A lot of people participated in this question of the week, so I want to thank everyone for participating. Stay tuned every Wednesday at some random time. I will post it on Twitter and join in on the discussion. Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck Talk, Doug Dimmadule, who will show up soon with his Quintet Magician deck, says, Magician Girls have been a blast. Pro Bench Warmer says, Magician Girls mixed with Invoked. And Marble Scrabble says, Magician Girls, they are amazing at PvE farms. Yep. Everyone here is having a lot of fun with that archetype. Not only because they're very popular characters, but they do seem pretty effective. There's a lot of spellcaster synergy going on. You can mix and match with the decks. Definitely very fun. Card building cards, even if they're not the most competitive, they have a chance. They're not horrible cards that they will never be competitive. I think they have a shot. Average Gatsby says, Alistair is such a fun engine even without Merkaba. Also helps that you don't even need to run 3 Invocation, since it searches out and refills the hand. Yes, this is a very important thing about this archetype. It's one of the reasons why you would buy this box, because you get that Alistair package, and then you could just slot those into any decks that run water or dark monsters, or if you feel like using the earth guy. But you know, it's very worthwhile getting. I think it's a lot of value in times when boxes are paling in value compared to structured decks. This is something that has a lot of value. Shiny Sophion. I like Element Sabers a lot, but I don't think they're too competitive in a Dark Lord meta. I've also been playing Invoke Neos with Keeper of Dragon Magic, though, and that deck is legit. I already hit King of Games with him. Yeah. That's the deck that we're seeing, regularly placed in the tournament meta. Of course, you have to invest into the Keeper of Dragon Magic to have that optimized list. E-Ulf Pack 66121. I've been using Gears in the new Spellcaster deck, and also I made a good Blue Eyes Ultimate deck with DSOD Kaiba's Ultimate Dragon ability. This person's playing a little bit of everything. That's nice. Trying out the new decks. And Gears, I'm not sure if it means the Gadget Gears or what, but that's a new deck too. And Blue Eyes. Femi Bazuaye. Duel Links is just boring. So not everyone is having fun with the new cards. That is unfortunate, but that is the truth. MOS2342. Testing some waters with gadgets and ancient gears, but looking forward to using the new Spellcaster cards. Dark Slayer Arim, Blue Eyes, Sirius Star Spark, Gravekeepers, Invoking Everything. I think we have yet to see a really good Gravekeeper list. I have seen them on the ladder, but I think I've beat them every time, so I'm waiting for that really good Gravekeepers list. Gravekeepers don't have a water though, they're all dark monsters, so we'll see how that works. Juventus King 2, Vendreads, if that still counts, and SDE X01, Azer Nordic Beasts. Yeah, I'm with these guys. I'm playing Fortune Ladies, so I'm playing a slightly older deck. I just don't have the cards yet, but I'll join in the fun soon. Alright, so thanks to everyone for participating, and you could just participate next week. Around Wednesday, I'll have the tweet for the question or poll of the week, and we can all join in the discussion and have a good discussion in Duel Links. Alright, so let's get to the continuing discussion of Dark Dimension Box archetypes. I'll talk about the archetypes broadly, and then the notable R's and N's, or maybe all the R's and N's of each box, and then some other ones as well. So let's get to that now. The first archetype is the Invoked. They're the most notable archetype, and they do have some cards. Alistair and Invocation are URs. The Invoked Magellanica has been left out because it has no abilities, so pretty much the worst card is an SR filler. But some of these R cards are really good, including Invoked Coxidus. Level 6 Dragon Fusion involves Alistair and a water monster, 1800, 2900, cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. This card can attack while in face-up defense. If it does, apply its attack for damage calculation. So this is the first card that is attacking while in defense mode. And it's a 2900 defense, so it's pretty much got a really big wall. And you have to hit over 3000. You have to hit 3000 to destroy him. And it gets stronger. I've seen people combine it with Power of the Guardians, and it's super sticky. It can't be destroyed. It can't be targeted by effects. It can't be hit by effects, so you have to hit it. You have to hit through it. And that's why Power of the Guardians is pretty good with it, because the monster gets stronger every time. Super sticky, and it allows your water monsters to see play with Invocation. So any deck, like a water deck, you don't have to be a water deck. Any monster that's water attribute, like Chocolate Magician Girl's a water attribute, so you can mix her up with this. So this opens up a lot of play. It's just a really super strong package, and this is just an R rarity. The other good invoked card is Invoked Kaliga, level 4 Dark Beast. Involves Alistair and a Dark Monster, 1000 attack, 1800 defense. If a player's monster effect attempts to activate, none of that player's monsters can activate their effects for the rest of this turn while his cards face up on the field. Each player can only attack with one monster during each battle phase. This is a lockdown card to prevent abilities, and also kind of like the Dark Door, where each player can only attack with one card a turn. It's very easy to fuse with Dark Attributes, because Dark Attributes are pretty much every single monster nowadays, so very easy to include this. This is not the card you want for offense, though, because let's say you're winning on the board, and then you play this card, and then you can't hit through your opponents, so this is good when you're behind, where you're trying to stop your opponents from making plays, and then you can move into your Cox's play. It also works for some stall strategy as well. This card stalls decently, so as long as you can protect this monster with low stats. The other card that is in this archetype is called Omega Summon. Trap card. Target any of your banished invoked monsters with different names. Special summon them in defense position. This is a card that we haven't seen play yet, because the invoked are put into different packages. It's super late game, though. I think you're going to need 3 of those guys, or 2 of those guys banished, and then, unless the only way to counter them is to mass banish them with something like Crystron Quadrant Gandrix or something, but then they can't even target Coxidus with an effect, so I'm not really sure how that would be used. So it's a card that probably won't see play. Now it's time to get to the biggest archetype in the box in terms of representation, that is, and those are the Gravekeepers. Lots of Arzenens thrown into this, and not everyone's going to see play, but some of them are pretty good to be auto-includes in the deck. Gravekeepers, Supernaturalist. Doug talked about this deck card last week. Level 7, Spellcaster, 2 Gravekeeper monsters, 2000. Gains attack and defense equal to the combined original levels of the materials used to its fusion summon times 100. While Necro Valley is on the field, this card and any card in your field zone cannot be destroyed by card effects. During your main phase, you can activate its effect during the end phase of this turn. Add 1 Gravekeeper's monster or 1 Necro Valley card from your deck to your hand. You can use this effect once per turn. This is the main beater of the card. It's going to be around 3000 attack and then around 3500 with Necro Valley. You can tutor any card of the archetype every turn. There could be 1 turn window where this card can be destroyed by card effects, but then after you get the field, it's going to be pretty strong, and then you'll need to banish this card. So this is the boss monster. This is the reason why you would play Gravekeepers. In addition to the other, really big Gravekeepers you can tribute summon. Gravekeeper's Guard. Level 4, 1000, 1900 flip effect. Target 1 card your opponent controls. Return it to the hand. Bounce card for Gravekeepers. Gets around graveyard protections. Not that remarkable. You might see like a 1 of in this deck. It's 2400 defense, though, with the Necro Valley on the board. Gravekeeper's Descendant. Level 4, 1500, 1200. You contribute 1 other face of Gravekeeper's monster to target 1 card your opponent controls. Destroy it. This is the main control card in the deck. I've seen this card around. 2000 attack with Necro Valley on the board. And typically you want to remove something for an effect and then get off an extra effect. So this is the main control card used to clear your opponent's board. Gravekeeper's Nobleman. Level 3, 1000, 1000. When this card you control is destroyed by battle with an opponent's attacking monster and sent to the graveyard, special summon 1 Gravekeeper monster in your deck and face down defense, except for Nobleman. This is similar to Gravekeeper's Spy, except Gravekeeper's Spy is a flip effect and then you get a monster with 1500 attack or less from the deck. You probably want this to cheat out something bigger, but it's pretty much an extra copy of Gravekeeper's Spy if you don't have that card. Here's one that's seeing a lot of play. Gravekeeper's Headman, 500, 1500, level 3. If this card is summoned, you can target 1 level 4 Gravekeeper's monster in your graveyard, special summon it in attack or face down defense. You can use this effect once per turn. It's not affected by Necro Valley. So this card is a combo card with Descendant, where you can keep bringing the monsters back and then using them to clear your opponent's board. Basically what that's for. Rite of Spirit, trap card, target one Gravekeeper monster in your graveyard, special summon that target, not affected by Necro Valley. This is a card you would see 3 of typically in Gravekeepers as the Resurrection. There's synergy with Descendant. You could use the materials for Supernaturalist. A lot you could do with this card. And of course, your opponent's locked out with Necro Valley, and this is the one that lets you get by Necro Valley. That's why it's important. Gravekeeper's Watcher, level 4, 1000, 1000. During either player's turn, when your opponent activates a spell or trap or monster effect that makes them discard, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, negate the activation. If you do, destroy it. Very, very situational. I think the only thing this counters right now is Snipe Hunter, really. Gravekeeper's Ambusher, level 4, 1700, 0. When this is flipped face up, target one card in your opponent's graveyard. Place that target on the bottom of their deck. If this is sent from the field to the graveyard after being flipped face up, you can target Necro Valley in your graveyard, add that to your hand. Okay. This card kind of just interferes with graveyard recycling by your opponent, and then you recycle your Necro Valley. So this is assuming your card's destroyed. Situational late game, not very good. Gravekeeper Shaman, level 6. 1500, 1500. This card gains 200 defense for each Gravekeeper in your graveyard. Negate all monster effects that activate in the graveyard except for Gravekeeper monsters. When Necro Valley is on the field, your opponent cannot activate field spells. Field spells cannot be destroyed by your opponent. This was a PvE card that they used because Necro Valley wasn't a card. Now that Necro Valley is a card, this card's kind of useless. Yeah, it's basically like a stand-in before Necro Valley was a card. Next card is Gravekeeper's Heretic, level 4, 1800, 1500. If this card on the field is unaffected by all their card effects, as long as Necro Valley is on the field. It's just a 1800. That's all it is. Gravekeeper Spiritualist. This one's actually good. Level 4, 1500, 1500. During your main phase, if Necro Valley is on the field, you can fusion summon one spellcaster fusion monster from your extra deck using this card you control, and other monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. Okay. So this is basically like a Hex fusion monster where the polymerization or fusion card is already built in the monster. So you use Spiritualist and then any other monster to make Gravekeeper Supernaturalist. And because the deck recycles so well, you can just bring her back and then fusion again. So this is the reason why you would use Supernaturalist, because it's so easy to fusion. Charm of Shopti, rock 100, 100. During either player's turn, you can discard this card until the end phase. Gravekeepers you control cannot be destroyed by battle. So this is a hand protection. Maybe useful. I don't see it being useful, but if in the event that your Gravekeepers will go down by attack. And finally, Necro Valley Temple, trap card, continuous trap card. While a Gravekeeper's monster and Necro Valley are both on the field, monsters your opponent controls lose 500 attack and defense. Once per turn, if you control no card in your field zone, you can activate Necro Valley directly from your hand or graveyard. If this card in your possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can set Necro Valley directly from your deck. So this is kind of like a budget Necro Valley if you don't have 3 of that field spell. Yeah, it's the best move for that because you can recycle your field spell. Move on to the Magician Girls. They had some more expensive ones like Chocolate Magician Girl, but these are Berry Magician Girls in SR, Chocolate's a UR. Let's look at some of the R's and N's. Apple Magician Girl, Fire Spellcaster, 1200, 800. Once per turn, if this card is targeted for an attack, you can special summon one level 5 or lower spellcaster monster from your hand and change the attack target to it. If you do, the attacking monster's attack becomes half. Once destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target 3 other Magician Girls with different names in your graveyard and add them to your hand. This one is a bit of a budget version of Chocolate, and there's a decent recyclability. You don't get to add the monster to your graveyard, but you get 3 of them back. This is a bit anti-synergy if you're trying to play Quintet Magician because you want those cards in your graveyard, I think. No, wait, you want them back in your hand. Never mind. So this could work for Quintet Magician because you get to recycle the cards. It's anti-synergy with Magicalized Fusion. Okay, so yeah, so it works counter to Magicalized Fusion, but it's more useful if you want those cards recycled back to your hand. Lemon Magician Girl is light, level 2, 800, 600. Once per turn, you can tribute 1 Magician Girl monster, except for Lemon Magician Girl. Add 1 spellcaster from your deck to your hand. Once per turn, when this is targeted for an attack, special summon a spellcaster from your hand. Its effects are negated, and then they do the mirror wall thing, where they change the attack target, and then the monster loses half of its attack. This card is... you could control how it escapes, because you could tutor the really big spellcaster to your hand, and then you force the attack on that monster. But it requires a tribute on the board for the whole thing to work, so it's a bit clunky. Kiwi Magician Girl, level 5 Wind, 1800, 1200. During either player's turn, you can discard this card. Magician Girl monsters you control gain 300 attack and defense for each Magician Girl with different names on the field and in the graveyards until the end of the turn. Spellcasters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects, and your opponent cannot target them with card effects. This is a general support card for Magician Girls, works a little differently. You don't really need it on the board, but it's good for discarding for effect. And it's in the graveyard. You could work for the Quintet Magician, or you could just discard it. Yeah, it's kind of like dual action, so it's very useful utility card for this archetype. There are also some general spellcaster cards in this deck, in this box, and it's heavy on spellcasters, and it all works out. Arnis, the Empowered Warrior, level 4 Warrior, 1700, 1200. This is kind of like the blue Dragon Summoner type card. When this card you controlled is destroyed by battle with an opponent's monster and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 spellcaster with 1500 or less attack from your deck in attack position. This is a good budget card to float out any magicians. It's kind of like a cheaper version of Gravekeeper Spy, actually, with less stats. So you could cheat out any of your spellcasters with 1500 or less attack. I think Spy does defense, so it's a little different, but this could also work for these Magician Girls as well. General utility card supporting spellcasters. Dark Magic Veil spell card. Pay 1000 life points, special summon 1 dark spellcaster from your hand or graveyard. Low cost. It's kind of like Cosmic Cyclone. You could cheat out Dark Magician or Gravekeepers. They're all dark spellcasters. Magicalized Fusion. Normal spell. Fusion summon 1 spellcaster fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing materials from your field or graveyard. You can only activate 1 per turn. This is the core card for Quintet Magician, because you want all those different spellcaster names in the graveyard because you can't hold all of them in your hand to use a normal fusion card. Dark Horizon trap card. When you take battle or effect damage, special summon 1 dark spellcaster monster from your deck with attack less than or equal to the damage you took. Very situational. It's like you're getting hit for 3,000 and then you play this, you get Dark Magician on the board. If you get hit for less, you can get someone smaller, but it's situational. It's hard to play around. It could be devastating if you're playing Dark Lords and then they get a guy out on the board. And finally, Magician's Defense, Continuous Trap. While you control a spellcaster monster, any damage you take is halved. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target 1 spellcaster monster in your graveyard, special summon it. This is a bit of an extra card. Your opponent probably won't want to destroy this card. If you're playing the Magician Girls, they would lose half anyway, so it's a bit of an extra card. Alright, now that we just talked about the Magician Girls and Magicalized Fusion, let's bring in Doug Dimmadule with his Deck of the Week. He has a very fun and possibly competitive Turbo Quintet Magician deck. It has all the Dark Magicians, Dark Magician Girl, and also the new Magician Girl card. So check out Doug right now.
Hey there, this is Doug Dimmadul with Doug's Casual Deck of the Week. This week, I want to run a deck utilizing one of the new archetypes that came out in the new box, the Dark Magician Girl engine, with all the different Magician Girls. You got Chocolate Magician Girl, you got Berry Magician Girl, Apple, you got all the different fruits. I mean, this is such an underrated archetype, and we could actually do some serious damage really quickly. So the purpose of this deck is to try and get Quintet Magician out as quickly as possible. Now, if you don't know what Quintet Magician is, it's a level 12 spellcaster fusion, which is part of the new box. It's got a 4,500 attack, 4,500 defense, just big and beefy. What it requires is 5 spellcaster type monsters. Now this has to be fusion summoned. If this card is fusion summoned using 5 spellcaster type monsters with different names, you can destroy all cards your opponent controls. This face-up card on the field cannot be tributed, nor used as fusion material, also cannot be destroyed by card effects. So yeah, it's pretty good, aside from the fact that, there's been a lot of banishing, there's been a lot of sending back to the hand or sending back to the deck, but other than that, I mean, this card can stay on the field. It could still have its attack and defense stats changed, but its attack is so high. It's just a really good way to just OTK somebody, blow up their board, and then just swing for 4,500 for game because there's nothing left on the field. Just watch out for hand traps. But other than that, I mean, this deck can be really, really quick, surprisingly, because when you think about needing 5 spellcasters either on the field or in the graveyard or anything like that, because there's a spell card, Magicalized Fusion, and this is basically what this deck revolves around. This is ultimately what you want to have as soon as possible. You fusion summon 1 spellcaster fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your field or graveyard. You can only activate one of these per turn. So essentially, using this Magician Girl engine, you're able to really just start moving through your deck. You're able to start moving cards into the graveyard. You're able to get a few more on the field. So I've seen as quickly as turn 3, turn 4, you're able to basically get your Quintet Magician out, blow up the board, and swing for game. This is a lot quicker than I anticipated, and it's a lot more consistent than I anticipated. The other beauty of this deck is that you really don't need 3 copies of a particular card to make this deck efficient. Honestly, I think you want 3 copies of Chocolate Magician Girl because it is probably one of the best ways to get some of your other Magician Girls into your graveyard quicker, but Berry Magician Girl makes things a little more consistent anyway, so as long as you have one of those 2, you can use your Berry Magician Girl to search out your Chocolate Magician Girl. It may just delay your big fusion play by maybe an extra turn. So, but what do I run? I just run 2 copies of Palladium Oracle Mahad. It's a level 7 spellcaster. When you draw this card, you can reveal this card, special summon it from your hand. If it battles a dark monster, double its attack. If it's destroyed by battle or card effect, you could then special summon 1 dark magician from your hand, deck, or graveyard. So because of that effect, and because I just want to get as many different named spellcasters as possible, I do run 2 copies of Dark Magician, just because of this. And Palladium Oracle Mahad does such a good job of getting onto the field. You don't need to waste a normal summon to try and get those 5 spellcasters in play. For good measure, I just run 1 copy of Dark Magician Girl. I run 3 copies of Chocolate Magician Girl because, as you know, once per turn you can discard 1 spellcaster, draw 1 card, and then if it's targeted for attack, you can target 1 spellcaster in your graveyard, except Chocolate Magician Girl, special summon it, then change the attack target and cut that attacking monster's attack in half. Then I run 3 copies of Berry Magician Girl. It's the Searcher, where as long as you normal summon it, you could add another Magician Girl to your hand. Also, if it's attacked or if it's going to be destroyed by card effect, or by battle, you could switch it to defense position and then special summon another Magician Girl from your deck. I run 1 copy of Apple Magician Girl just for good measure, and then Kiwi Magician Girl, you can run 2 copies of this because it activates its own effect and sends itself to the graveyard, so that's really, really powerful. Then you got Lemon Magician Girl, where if it's targeted for attack, you could special summon 1 spellcaster from your hand onto the field, change the attack target to that summon monster, and cut the attacking monster's attack in half. So between all of these, you can basically change around the formatting of how many of each you want, but effectively you're able to just burn through your deck real quick, send a lot of stuff to the graveyard, and really just go for that big fusion play. So that's essentially how I run things, and because you're going through your deck so quickly, you may get that fusion card sooner than later. So that's essentially the strategy behind this. It's a really quick deck. It's just something that is really effective rather quickly. You could use that new Dragon card from the new EX structure deck to get your fusion card much quicker too. But this deck, I don't really run it in because I've still found that by turn 4, turn 5, turn 6, I'm already going into my Quintet Magician Fusion play, and it's basically game over from there. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this deck. That's about it. Mess around with the numbers as far as how much of each card you want to use in your deck. But yeah, you could really make this thing work, and you could make it real powerful. So anyway, that's it for Doug's Casual Deck of the Week this week. I will see you next time.
All right. Thanks, Doug. And you can check him out every week on this podcast to have a deck of the week. He's getting some great ideas from this new box. Last week he had Gravekeepers, and now he has Magician Girls. Who knows what we'll have next week. All right. So let's move on to the next archetype, and that is the Element Saber archetype. They had a UR card in Molehu and also an SR card in the Field Spell. What else do they have? Let's see. This card is Element Saber La Poila, level 4 light, 400, 2100. Once per turn, when a spell or trap is activated, quick effect, send 1 Element Saber from your hand to the graveyard, negate the activation, destroy it. Once per turn, when this is in the graveyard, you can declare 1 attribute. This card in the graveyard becomes that attribute until the end of the turn. This is pretty good. It's like Shen with the beneficial discard, because you want those monsters in the graveyard for various effects. So pretty good, but its stats are really low. Hopefully you can bolster it and keep it on the board and not get destroyed. Element Training. Continuous trap. Your opponent cannot target Palace of the Elemental Lords you control of card effects, cannot be destroyed by card effects. Once per turn, you contribute 1 monster, special summon 1 Element Saber monster from your deck with a different original attribute. Send this card face up from the field to the graveyard, discard your entire hand, add Elemental Lord monsters from your graveyard to your hand, equal to the number of cards discarded. This is pretty vital, I think, for this archetype. It does a little bit of everything. It protects your field spell. It lets you dispose of a monster to cheat out another monster from the deck. And then there's also some synergy to add Elemental Lord monsters. Those are cards that never really saw play, but they're tied to these Element Saber cards. Element Saber Aina, level 2, 900, 1800. Once per turn, you can send an Element Saber from your hand to the graveyard, target 1 Element Saber monster or Elemental Lord monster in your graveyard, special summon it. You could change this card's attribute in the graveyard. So this card opens up play for the Elemental Lord monsters because those were never played. They had to have some tricky summoning requirements. This is solid. You could just cheat out monsters from your graveyard. Element Saber Makani. Wind. Level 2, 1300, 1200. Once per turn, you can send an Element Saber from your hand to the graveyard, add 1 Element Saber or Elemental Lord from your deck to your hand. Except for this one, you can change its attributes in the graveyard. This is the tutor for the deck. They might not need to tutor a ton, though, because they could just put any card in the graveyard and get it back. This is useful for any hand summoning if you want that monster in your hand. Element Saber Nalu, Water, 1500, 1000. Once per turn, add an Element Saber from your hand to the graveyard. Target one Element Saber or Elemental Lord in your graveyard and add it to your hand. Change the attributes in the graveyard. This seems like a worse version of Aina, because you get the monster in the hand rather than on the board. But what this does is it's a water attribute, so it does help with the invoked if you want to combine that strategy. And finally, the fire one, Element Saber Malu, Fire, 1700, 200. Once per turn, you can send one Element Saber monster from your hand to the graveyard, and then send one Element Saber or Elemental Lord from your deck to the graveyard, except for Malo. You can change its attributes in the graveyard. So this card's ability is discard 2, and you dump 2 cards from the deck to the graveyard. And that's pretty good for this archetype. So this is the mass disposal card, and it's got okay attack, so this one probably is pretty good too. Overall, pretty solid archetype. I'll do a little bit different things. Move on to the gadgets. We already had the yellow, red, and green gadgets. There's some other cards in this archetype, like Ancient Gear Gadgetron Dragon, level 8 machine, 3000, 2000. It's kind of like an Ancient Gear monster. When it attacks, your opponent cannot activate spells or traps until the end of the damage step. This card gains the effects if you normal summon it by tributing these monsters. Green gadget, Piercing. Red gadget, inflict 400 damage when it inflicts battle damage. Yellow gadget, if it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, inflict 600. So this is like a worse way of playing Ancient Gears, in my opinion. There's extra burn capability, but it loses the abilities, like the fast way of playing Ancient Gears without Ancient Gear Fortress or Gear Town. And you have to tribute summon 2 monsters, so you have to pick which ones you do. Of course, it could be devastating. With the extra burn ability, you could end them faster, but Ancient Gears were already pretty good at that, and I think the current way of playing Ancient Gears is better. Metal Hold, the Moving Blockade, Continuous Trap. Activate this card by targeting any number of level 4 machines you control. Special summon this as an effect monster. Equip those face-up monsters to this card. It gains attack equal to the combined attack of those monsters. Monsters your opponent controls cannot target monsters you control for attacks, except for this one. This card kind of clogs up your back row because the other monsters will be attached to it. It could work for gadgets. It's a bit slow, but it could also be a really big beat stick if you have those level 4 machines pretty strong. Boot Up Soldier Dread Dynamo, level 4 machine, 0-2000. While you control a gadget monster, this card gains 2000 attack. Situational 4-star 2000. It could work with the Metal Hold Blockade, where you can make it, 6000 attack. I guess it's only used for this card, but there are better cards around now. And finally, Ancient Gear Gadgetron Chimera, level 6 machine, 2300, 1300. It gains these effects when you normal summon it by tributing those monsters. Green gadget gains 300 attack, so 2600, 1 tribute. Red gadget, and if it inflicts battle damage with a direct attack, inflict extra 500. Yellow gadget, if it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, inflicts 700. Yeah, this is a very clunky 1 tribute monster for Gadgetrons. I'm not too impressed with this archetype because it kind of moves away from the faster way of playing Ancient Gears. 2 Karakuri cards. Karakuri Watchdog Model 313 Saizen, level 4, Machine Tuner, 600, 1800. This card must attack if able. When this card is selected as an attack target, change its battle position. When you take battle damage from a battle involving this card, all face-up Karakuris gain 800 attack and defense. While this card is face-up on the field in attack mode, it cannot be destroyed by battle. So the point of this card is being a level 4 tuner. It works out with the level 8 Synchro Summon. And also you want to ram this card on purpose so you could boost your monsters by 800. It won't be destroyed itself. In Karakuri Clock, trap card, activate when a face-up defense position Karakuri monster is selected as an attack target. Destroy all face-up monsters your opponent controls. This could be what brings card curries back. I haven't seen card curries come back, but this is a board wipe, and they're going to be in defense mode when they get switched over. So this could be pretty good. Other notable cards that don't really belong to an archetype: Evil Swarm Azathoth, level 4 reptile, flip effect, 750, 1950. Target one special summoned monster on the field, shuffle that target into the deck. This could see a situational play because this bounce ability is more resource spending. If you send the card to the hand, they could play it next turn, but this kind of costs them the tutor that they got it from the deck as well. So let's bring it back in the deck. And almost every monster is special summoned nowadays, so I think this would see some play eventually. Ally of Justice Quarantine. Neither player can special summon light monsters. So this just could kill Blue Eyes. Anything that was heavy on light special summons. Blue Eyes aren't that common anymore, but this card is a good tech card against any light deck. Ancient Gear Reborn. Continuous trap. Once per turn, if you control no monsters, target one Ancient Gear monster in your graveyard, special summon it. Gains 200 attack. So this is the first resurrection for Ancient Gears. Typically, you beat Ancient Gears by destroying all their things, so this could be a comeback for them. Tuning Gum, level 1 Fiend Tuner, 400, 1200. You can target one face-up monster you control. That face-up monster is treated as a tuner this turn. You can use this effect once per turn. You can only attack with the synchro monsters. During the turn you activate this effect. During either player's turn, when a card effect is activated that targets one synchro monster you control, banish this card and negate the activation. Pretty useful utility tuner for any level 1s. Doesn't have to be a level 1. It could just make the other monster a tuner. And then the ability to protect things is kind of like Bacon Saver. Last card I want to talk about is Pandemic Dragon. Level 7 Dark Dragon, 2500, 1000. Once per turn you can pay life points in multiples of 100. Other face-up monsters on the field lose that much attack. Once per turn you can target one monster on the field with less attack. With attack less than or equal to this one, destroy it. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, all face-up monsters on the field lose 1000 attack. This kind of reminds me of the cubic cards that you face in PvE, where they kind of wear them down and then they can attack for big swing, like a one-turn kill. It's a bit slow, but it could be very devastating if this works. You could just weaken the whole board and then swing for game. That is it for the discussion of the Dark Dimension box. I personally think this is one of the best boxes to come out in a while. And of course, the draw of the box is the invocation cards. That's why you'll buy it. But then the Element Sabers are pretty good too. Magician Girls are pretty good. Gravekeepers might have some potential. So there's definitely a lot to do. I guess it all pans out when the next box comes out, but we are getting some gems. Just level up your characters and do what you can, see what you can do with this box. Alright, so let's move on to 3 other cards that are coming into the game. First 2 from the new Ranked Duels. The 2 new cards from Ranked Duels. The SR Cyber Dragon Veer, level 4, 1100, 1600 light machine. This card becomes Cyber Dragon while on the field or in the graveyard. If you normal or special summon Cyber Dragon except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand in defense position. You can only use this effect once per turn. Each Cyber Dragon you control gains 500 attack or defense. So Cyber Dragon is a card now. These little substitutes have some synergy as well. You can actually play Cyber Dragon dry, and then this card comes out, and then they both become level 5, so you can make some play there. Cyber Dragons haven't really been a competitive archetype, but since Cyber Dragon is around, they're adding more support for it. Our rarity card is called Armored Cybern, level 4, Machine Union, 0 attack, 2000 defense. Once per turn, you can target one Cyber Dragon you control or one fusion monster you control that lists Cyber Dragon as fusion material. Equip this card to the target, or unequip this card and special summon it. Once per turn, while equipped to a monster by this effect, you can target one face-up monster on the field. The equipped monster loses exactly 1000 attack. And if it does, destroy that target. If the equipped monster will be destroyed by battle or card effect, destroy this card instead. So, this is like a union card. Union card's a bit obsolete, frankly. and this is one that works with Cyber Dragon. It weakens them. It also protects Cyber Dragon. You only see play if there's some kind of like one-turn kill Cyber Dragon fusion deck that happens. We've seen those decks before. They're not the worst, but they're not meta right now. And the last card is from Duel Quest. It's a Shizu's monster Kelbeck. We get one copy, I think. Level 4, 1500, 1800 Earth Fairy. A monster that attacks this card returns to the hand. Damage calculation is applied normally. Another bounce card. The bounce cards we get in Yu-Gi-Oh! Are a bit different. This is a bit weaker because it's not a flip effect bounce where you could target which card you want to send back, but these cards are nice. I think this is a really strong ability, and it's great for budget, for low budget players, free to play people to cobble into their deck if they needed a bounce monster. So this is a very good addition. I guess because bounce monsters are meta now, they allowed us to give us this card because this is one of her core cards, and they didn't give it to us when you leveled up a Shizu because it would have been too strong of an ability. And now that almost every box has a new bounce monster with a different effect, this is good enough to give us now, I guess. Alright, so that is the content for this week. I skipped over the farmable rewards at the gate because I am tired of talking. I will save that for another week. Right now we have 3 people, Seto Kaiba, Mokuba, and Scud. Those cards, I think Mokuba's cards might have the most play. Thunder Dragons are a King of Games deck. So upcoming news, Raid Duels, this will come in a few days. Kapakapu, new Affinity skill, new Kalen Kessler skill. You get to get Kalen Kessler if you don't have him before. Early October, Mission Circuit, a new card called Horse of the Floral Knights. Mid-October, Rise of Yubel, new cards for Jaden Yubel. You get to get Jaden Yubel. Mid-October, Loomis and Umbra retired to the gate. Mid-October, Duel Quest. Late October, a new event called Turbo Duel Grand Prix. Late October, Weevil's event, Unleash the True Power, Injector Firefly, and Injector Giga Weevil. And then the updates to check lists. Okay. So that's it for the podcast for this week. Thank you very much for everyone who listened and participated. Check this podcast anywhere, search the Duel Assessment. All of these notes are on the WordPress site, the duelassessment.wordpress.com. Email me with any inquiries to duelassessment@gmail.com, or better yet, Twitter, where you can participate in those questions of the week. Duel_assessment, or my own derelict account at Green Ranger CCG. Okay, alright. So that is it for this week. Thank you very much. I will see you next time.